Projection. Projection is when someone takes an uncomfortable trait, impulse, or intention they possess and pretends it belongs to you, and the effect is both disorienting and subtle. In plain terms, projection is the act of accusing you of the very thing they are doing themselves, calling you selfish when they refuse to compromise, insisting you're lying when they are the one inventing stories. And it often arrives as a steady drip of deflection, rather than a single dramatic accusation. Mechanically, projection operates by shifting attention away from the manipulator's behavior and onto a convenient target, you. Imagine a partner who is secretive about their phone, but suddenly accuses you of hiding things. They seed doubt and keep you busy defending yourself while their own actions remain unexamined. Their purpose is straightforward. By projecting, they avoid responsibility, reduce the likelihood that someone will look closely at them, and force you into the defensive posture that makes their behavior invisible. So, what do? Begin by naming the behavior precisely and holding a mirror to actions, not feelings. Calmly say, "You just accused me of X. Here are the facts I see." Keep records of discrepancies between words and actions. Rely on external checks, texts, receipts, witnesses when necessary, and practice answering projection with neutral questions. What makes you say that? That put the burden back on the accuser to explain, rather than on you to apologize. Over time, insistence on evidence and on parsing behavior rather than assigning motive will reduce projection's power. Emotional blackmail. Emotional blackmail is the tactic of using someone's empathy, loyalty, or sense of obligation as a bargaining chip. Defined simply, it's when threats, explicit or implicit, are wrapped in the language of love, duty, or consequence to force compliance. The mechanism is psychological leverage. You are presented with a stark emotional choice. Give in or watch harm befall the relationship, the person, or even the manipulator themselves. A typical example is a partner who says, "If you leave, I'll never recover," or a family member who threatens withdrawal of affection unless you follow a demand. The statement masquerades as vulnerability while functioning as a coercive threat. The goal is to make you feel responsible for their stability, to convert your compassion into control. So, how do you protect yourself? First, label it aloud. Say, "That sounds like a threat, and I won't make choices from fear." Set clear consequence boundaries. If they use threats to manipulate, you will step away from that conversation and return only when it can be addressed respectfully. Seek external support before deciding. Discuss the claim with a trusted friend or counselor, so you don't make immediate concessions in the red heat of guilt. Finally, if the blackmail escalates or becomes safety-threatening, document it and get professional help. Emotional blackmail becomes dangerous when it normalizes coercion. Hoovering. Hoovering is the name for the maneuvers manipulators use to suck you back into a relationship after distance, boundary setting, or a breakup, named after the vacuum cleaner, because it's designed to pull you in. By definition, hoovering is a pattern of sudden reconciliatory gestures, dramatic apologies, surprise messages, nostalgic reminders, or crisis stories, timed to exploit your residual attachment or guilt. The mechanism is classic intermittent reinforcement. After absence comes an unpredictable reward, a heartfelt text, a late-night call, and unpredictability is deeply addictive. You check, respond, and then you are back in the loop. For example, someone who ghosted you for weeks will surface with a crisis message like, "I almost lost everything. I need you." And that sudden pull on your sympathy often bypasses the rational decision you'd made while clear-headed. The manipulator's purpose is to regain influence quickly, re-establish proximity, and reintroduce the dynamics that allow them to control the relationship without committing to change. So, what do? Recognize the pattern and require consistency before trust is re-extended. Ask for concrete, verifiable changes over time, not spectacular apologies. Treat hoovering communications as evidence to be evaluated, not emergencies to be immediately resolved. Pause, check with your boundaries, and reply only when you're willing to hold the line. If you want to keep contact minimal, respond with a single calm message that sets terms for reconnection. Or don't respond at all until you have support and a plan. Letting your boundaries stand unbothered is the most effective antidote. Mirroring. Mirroring is the tactic of consciously or unconsciously mimicking another person's behaviors, values, and likes to create a rapid sense of rapport. And although it can be a normal tool of empathy, manipulators weaponize it to produce trust that is shallow and conditional. Defined, mirroring consists of matching your language, hobbies, body language, and opinion early and intensely, so you feel seen and understood. Mechanistically, this leverages the human preference for similarity, which makes us more willing to open up and to like someone. An example, a new acquaintance suddenly shares all your niche interests, uses your phrases, and echoes your emotional tone to an uncanny degree, so that you feel an instant bond and disclose things you might otherwise keep private. The manipulator's intent is to accelerate intimacy, so they can harvest information, loyalty, or influence before you have had time to test authenticity. So, how do you guard yourself? Slow down the intimacy curve deliberately. Keep early interactions light, and verify consistency across contexts and time. Ask open questions that require specifics, not just, do you like X? But, what's the last thing about X that mattered to you? And watch whether their stories hold up. Maintain parallel relationships, and don't place early disclosures behind closed doors until you see steadiness in behavior. True rapport will survive small delays, whereas weaponized mirroring collapses when it cannot be sustained. Isolation and smear campaigns. Isolation and smear, two related tactics, work together to remove your support and then delegitimize you to the people you might turn to, and both operate under the broad goal of reducing the likelihood that anyone will validate your experience. Isolation, in its simplest form, is the slow limiting of your contact with friends, family, or colleagues. Subtle comments about how they don't understand, scheduling that excludes you, or direct discouragement to see people who would challenge the manipulator. A smear campaign is the active maligning of your reputation, spreading half-truths, selective stories, or outright lies, to make you appear unreasonable, unstable, or selfish in the eyes of others. Mechanically, isolation makes you more dependent and easier to control. Smear campaigns preempt external intervention by framing you as the problem if anyone does ask questions. Imagine someone who begins telling mutual acquaintances that you're too dramatic, while privately undermining your invitations to gatherings. Soon, your circle adjusts, and your voice weakens. The manipulator's purpose is to create an environment where you cannot get accurate feedback, and where their narrative becomes the dominant one. So, what do? Keep meticulous records of interactions and communications and maintain parallel lines to people who know you well. Proactively preserve relationships and schedule time with trusted friends deliberately. When a smear arises, respond briefly and factually to direct inquiries rather than engaging in public drama. Offer clear evidence and invite private conversation with concerned parties. If isolation or smear begins at work or in a formal community, escalate to HR or a neutral mediator and document patterns. Third-party involvement can break the cycle more effectively than direct confrontation. Emotional invalidation and minimization. Emotional invalidation and minimization are the techniques of denying, dismissing, or trivializing another person's feelings. And though they sometimes sound gentle, you're overreacting, or it wasn't that big a deal, their effect is corrosive because they teach you to distrust your own emotional responses. Invalidation reframes legitimate emotion as wrong, excessive, or inappropriate. Minimization reduces the importance of your experience, so the manipulator can proceed with their agenda without answering for impact. The mechanism is often cumulative. Repeated phrases that undermine your feelings make you second-guess the legitimacy of your reactions, and more likely to accept the manipulator's framing. For instance, you say you felt hurt by a comment, and the other replies, "You always take things personally. Get over it," which over time trains you to silence yourself rather than explore your boundaries. The purpose is control through epistemic dominance. Make the other person doubt their internal compass, so the manipulator's perspective holds more weight. So, how do you respond? Start by validating yourself out loud. Name the feeling and its cause clearly. I felt hurt when X happened. If the other minimizes, restate concisely and shift to behavior. I'm not asking you to fix my feeling. I'm asking you to notice that X caused it. Use I statements and request specific repair actions rather than moral arguments about the feeling itself. If invalidation persists, enlist a neutral witness or therapist to establish reality and use written communication to create an external record of your perspective. External validation and documented facts are powerful correctives to repeated minimization.